Welcome to this volume of Game of Names. This one is going to be diving into which is which, because there are too many people out there who think that just because somebody does yoga or they're into crystals or they're into reading about magic, that they're an evil person. But what those same people don't understand is that every person's name resonates a certain way in the world around them, and where they grow up and where they came from is what is causing that to be. Now, they do have free will. They could change their mind. They could think deeper than just their name or their ego. But you can tell when somebody's stuck in their ego because they act exactly according to their name. And I have not seen another person who has not, because most people have no idea that even them thinking that they've shed their ego is part of their ego. Me, Dan doesn't exist. It's just the body that I work through. But you'll see what I mean as time goes on. I know how those things sound to most people, but they're true in a very deep way that most people can't fathom just yet. So we'll go right into some of the people who practice witchcraft, magic, spell casting, crystals, healing, all those kind of things, because we'll show you that they were put here by the Creator in a non-religious fashion because the universe works through us. All of us, not just human beings, but everything. So here we go with Volume 13. The first person we'll start with is an author of a book called Crystalpedia, which is about crystals, of course. And this person's name is Athena Paracus. Now, the active plus here expressed notion or nature, active. So it's the active, the at here expressed notion active. Okay? Now, with that, the potential or the placement expressing the reference upon itself, active, kinetic, identified subject. So it's not a rock, it's a parakis. The word rock is in there, but it's an active kinetic, not an ongoing, constant to itself kinetic. It's more personal than that. It's literally P-E-R as the per, and then two R's being referenced upon itself, A being active, R-A-K being a rock with an I at the end, identified, subject. So if you wanted to identify the potential expressed reference of a rock identified as its subject, it is a crystal. Is this not crystal clear to you yet? Athena Paracus. Per rock, identified subject. Parak is. See? The next author of a book called Grimoire is Arin, A-R-I-N, as the active reference identifying notion. Murphy, manifested underlying reference, PH, or the placement here, vitally identified. Hiscock, here identified subject, unseen but constant to itself, ongoing, constant to itself, kinetic. Witchcraft, Grimoire. Next, we'll go into another author of Grimoire, and I'll just put you what its loose definition from our dictionaries says, and I'm not going to go into it because I've broken down enough words where if you want to figure out what that word means, just look at it. And also, within this name of this author, Lydia Prodis, we have L-I and Dia, and I've explained Dia enough times. It basically means across, through, throughout, between. It's to and from. See what I mean? But I'll find the dictionary definition that it says and show it to you. Between, apart, through, across, with, without. Like, of course that means to and from, the direction of. Dia, that's what D stands for. But then when you identify it as its action, it's just saying what D does. D, Dia. So anyway, going into this person's name, along with her having Prada in her name, we know that means shine, or to have bestown, or to have grown with. Like Prada, the place, reference, active, to and from, Dia, action, subjected, that's her last name, and her first name being Lydia, spelled L-I, the L, active base, or the ling, identified, to and from, identified action. So her name being that, and then followed by placement or potential reference, active, Dia, active subject. So her active subject is going to Ling identify direct identified action. And she's speaking of the grimoire and witchcraft. Now, I'm not saying that deep down in personal ways these people can't do good things for people, but teaching these methods to people who don't know what they're doing and the power that we truly wield is dangerous in itself. So I'm not saying that a witch or someone who practices these things is bad. It's just that if you're loosely putting it out there for people who don't know what it really holds, it's dangerous. So that's why it ends up being bad. Not because the people themselves are evil beings. Not always. That has to do with other stuff. And I could explain how to do that, but I will never teach people because we're not supposed to interfere with other people's free wills and be that nosy. We're supposed to help each other out of our own hearts and not be someone who wants to control or force. That's crucial here. That's why machines are going to be something so negative, because they will push and force and control. And that's not freedom. That's not what we're here to do at all. I'm here to set you free. And I'm one of the only people who can do that because I'm showing you that there's more to it than what's going on in the news. This is something that is happening in your actual proximity space, your actual life. This is what's happening. So when we have Lydia Prodis, and she's talking about the grimoire, and you would say the Ling identified, Dia identified action, and then the placement or potential is the reference active, Dia active subject. And she's the one talking about teaching spells and using spells. You have to see it. Next, we have an author of a book called Enchantments. And the author's name is Maya Spalter. Now think of the word spell, S-P-E-L-L, but out of Maya, the illusion, the manifested, vitally identified action, Spalter, the subject, placement or potential, alter, or active as it lie plus express reference. And not only that, she doesn't just practice witchcraft. She's a Maya as the illusion, Spalter, one who speaks spells. And the book is called Enchantments. You following this? I hope so. Now, this is a little different than normal magic, as you would call it, but we'll call it movie magic. Now, since we just had Spalter, think of a person who is going to identify someone else's expression or spiel. When somebody speaks or talks, you can cast a spell in a base air generated or a base expressed reference generated, and they're the one who subjects that added event. Okay? Steven Spielberg. The subject plus expressed vital expressed notion, the subjecting the event, Steven, the event, Steven. It literally is the word events, scrambled. And then Spielberg. When you speak, you spiel. And when you put that into a berg, it's a movie. It's a spell-based expressed reference generated. Steven Spielberg. While we're on the ever so interesting topic of movie magic, we've got another one. James Francis Cameron, August 16th, 1954. That's 8 here, 16, which is placement or potential, and then 54 is expressing to and from. He's a junction of active manifested expressed subjects, form reference active notion, constant to himself identified subject, camera on, or concept or constant to himself active manifesting expressed reference, ongoing notion. His name is James Francis Cameron, and he's the guy with the camera on, another well-known movie director. These things are not just coincidences. It's just so magical, most people can't even fathom the depth of what I'm putting so simple. One more magical movie maker, we've got Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick, born July 26, 1928 in U.S., and he died over there in Child Wickedbury, England. He's over there with the England people. Wonder what he's doing. Nothing to say about all that, but Stanley Kubrick, subject plus active notion, as it lie, expressing vital identity, kinetic unit, base reference, identify constant to himself, kinetic, a movie maker. And not only that, that vibrates so heavy because July, severed and even, or grouped and generated, 26, the base form, base familiarity, or based familiarity, because it's 26, which is Z from top to bottom. It's based form or based familiarity. And then 1928 means based here. So he's talking about outside this world stuff. He's known for movies like The Shining, A Clockwork Orange, 2001 Space Odyssey. He's even involved with the moon landing. Look into that if you want to. I'm not going to tell you what's real and what's not. I'm just showing you how you can learn it and understand it. And when you have questions, let's talk about it. Other than that, let's move on to the next. Gypsies, tramps, and thieves, they hear it from the people of the town. They call them every night. The men will come around and lay the money down. Now, I'm not going to go into the person who sings that. That's a whole story of its own, of her own. But before we go into the last of this video, the word gypsy, to generate vital identity, potential, subjecting vital identity. If somebody is a mystical, magical person who generates the vital identity of potential and then subjects that vital identity, that's a gypsy, one that can pull things in and put them out. Or one who gyrates their hipsies. I mean, it sounds silly, but that's used to entrance people, is it not? It's to bring them into you and take them over. Not necessarily take them over in a dominant way. It can be, but it can be take them over in their mind by reading their future or reading their feelings and reading their aura. What gypsies can do if they're a true, proper gypsy. And I'm not saying proper as in the right thing, because messing around with energies that you don't understand is not safe. But there are some people who vibrate with them, who have it in their soul vibration to do that. So, because the way the world is around us, and our names, and our birth, and all that stuff, it ends up being so. And that's why people have the lives they have. When we go into this last person, it'll help you understand why her names put her in the place she was in her lifetime. Well-known burlesque entertainer, Gypsy Rose Lee, whose real name was Rose Louise Hovick. See how she got Louise, so she got Lee out of that, and Rose. So just go by her birth name, the reference ongoing subjecting expression, as it lie ongoing unit, identified subjecting expression, here ongoing vital identified constant to itself, kinetic. She was a stripper. So if you were here ongoing vitally identified as a constant to yourself, kinetic, stripping. Okay? Do you see this? And then as she resonates with her name and her date of birth, and then her name on stage, she starts doing more things that resonate with that because she is the gathering of the universe in that place and time. So she's Gypsy Rose Lee, born January 8th, 1911, and the 1 activating, 8 here, 11, actively active or kinetic. So stripping, and then getting into fame and having that distort, which it does, gypsy, the generated and even, vitally identified, in place. Subjecting, vitally identified, and she became somebody who was into the witchcraft part of things. Most people don't even know that. Some people just think, wow, she's really pretty. But do you know how many deep things that you can get past people when they're distracted by somebody who's pretty and charming and fun and exciting? Well, those are some of the sins that leave you susceptible to a bunch of black magic and false dialects and things that mislead you. I'm trying to do this in the nicest, kindest way to help everybody and not get myself harmed by people. But this is just a good example of somebody that they used to get out some agendas. We're going to go into some of those kind of people in the next video. So for now, that's going to be it. God bless.